I'd just like to start by saying thank you for giving me some of your time.
No problem.
Would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Yes, I'm Councillor Ron O'Keeffe, Councillor for Shadsworth and Whiteburk Ward, Borough Council of Blackburn and Darwin.
Right, very good. What's your role as a councillor? What do you do?
My role as a councillor is to look after the concerns of the residents of the ward, whatever concerns they have, whether it's about their pensions, whether it's about their property or whatever, or the neighbours and so on, and to deal with those complaints and take them to whatever official can deal with them, and to a satisfaction to that resident.
Brilliant. How long have you done this for?
Now, well, I've been a councillor since 2002. I represented Meadowhead Ward, the other side of Blackburn, Livers Branch Road area, for 4 years, and then I was defeated in an election, and I was off the council for 2 years, but I came back again, and I've been on representing Shadsworth and Whiteburk for the last 7 years. I'm coming up to my 8th year.
Excellent. So, since you've been in Shadsworth and since you've been councillor for Shadsworth, how have you found it?
Well, can I say right from the very beginning that I used to live on Shadsworth and Whiteburk when I first got married in the 1950s.
Oh yeah, please tell us more about that.
So I know what it was like at the very early stages of the estate, shall we put it that way. It had only been built a few years. Excuse me. And as I mentioned to you in a small interview before this, that the residents at that time were people who had been living in terraced houses at the end of the street where the mill was, or the factory was placed. And the visions of the leaders of the council at that time, in the early 1950s, was that people should, when they've gone to work and they come out of the work and they go back into their home, as they did in those days, there was no leisure for them. And he envisaged that building big estates on the outskirts of the borough so that people would have a garden and have some sort of leisure activities, such as community centres and so on. And he built these estates, Shadsworth and Whiteburk, and also the other one at Ayercroft. I can just remember the name, Ayercroft. And those were the two of the major estates, although smaller ones have been built early, such as Rowley and Brownhill Estate. And people, when they moved into them, realised that they'd been given a nice, lovely house, plenty of bedrooms, and also a garden. So that give them the pleasure to sit out in the deck chairs when it was sunshine, and then also to cultivate the garden with flowers and plants and things of that nature. So it was more of a leisure facility, and they appreciated that. Now, unfortunately, over the years, those sort of people that moved have gone. They brought up families. The families have dispersed and gone into their own houses at various parts of the town, or even out of the town. And the whole atmosphere of the ward and the estates changed, simply because the people that moved in from a different atmosphere, not from terraced houses and so on, but from a different atmosphere, and therefore they didn't appreciate the same as when the first tenants that moved in. Some of those tenants are still living on the estate, actually. It's amazing to think that some people have lived up here for 30, 40, 50 years, and you wouldn't think that could happen, but it does. It has happened.
Yeah, I've met a few of those.
Yeah,
and I've been doing that.
And unfortunately, also they built not only the houses, but they built a series of shops so that people could shop locally. In the bakeries, there were bakeries, there were dress shops, there were hairdressers. All sorts of different types of shops that they catered for the residents of those estates. Unfortunately, and at that time, all the houses were owned by the council. The council decided to give them over to an housing association, and I feel that since the housing associations took it over, they've not really kept up the maintenance of the shops. So therefore, the shops have gone downhill. And the tenants now go out of town, out into the town to do the shopping, or to the supermarkets. And there isn't the same bus service as there used to be, so that people can only go from the estate straight into town and back. At one time, the buses used to take them to different areas. Now they don't do that. That's cutbacks, unfortunately. So, in general, the estates have slowly, over the years, got run down. But recently, and I say this quite honestly, recently, the estates are coming back. And what is the reason for that? I find that a lot of the Eastern Europeans are moving into the estates, and they're looking after their houses like they were given to them in the early 50s, and they appreciate the type of house they've been given to them. I'm not saying given to them, but rented to them, or in some cases sold to them. Mm-hmm. But they then appreciate what they've got and are looking after their houses, looking after the gardens, and gradually, with a bit of possible perseverance from the housing managers, the estate is becoming a lot cleaner and a lot more pleasant to be on. And that is the history of the Shadsworth and the Whiteburk estates.
Just like to pick up on the fact that you just said there's a lot of Eastern Europeans moving in and they appreciate the properties they've got, which is, I notice that myself, they really do look after the properties and things. Do you think that's the only factor that's making it better, or do you think other people on the estate are, looking after the properties? Well,
yes, they are, but with the encouragement of what they see that the next door neighbour's done to their house, they say, well, why can't I do that to my house? And therefore it is like a cancer, it's spreading, and the good side of it is spreading. People are being conscious of the fact that you can have a nice garden, you can have a nice appearance to your house, and keeping it clean. There are some neighbours who don't, and unfortunately they're becoming very more and more in the minority of people who couldn't care less whether they empty the bins or keep the bins clean, and keep their house fronts clean and so on. They let the litter go.
Do you think that the housing association should have a few stricter guide rules as to how they look after?
Well, they do. Yeah, I agree with you there. They do have their house rules, but it's enforcement of those house rules.
Yeah.
And we do. I can say this: we do have 2 or 3 officers on this particular estate of Shadsworth, who are encouraging people to put up and look after they're putting up the fences, new fences if it's deteriorated and broken down. So the new fencing are going up, and people do appreciate the fact that the housing association is now looking after them in that sense.
Yeah.
The housing association have done a lot of work on the interior of the houses.
Yeah.
New bathrooms, new central heating. They've put what do you call it, on the roofs.
Oh, the solar panels.
The solar panels on the roof, and all that is good for the residents.
I know the full estate was all the houses were rewired about 4
Yes, rewiring. That's right. It does cause a bit of an upset at the time, but people have got to put up with that, and the houses are being looked after much better. New bathrooms. Some houses where they're disabled, they're having showers put in and so on. So from that point of view, the housing association are good. It is the outside of the house which you get a vision of it full of rubbish, yeah, and so on, and that is disappearing gradually.
So if that's the housing association, how do you think the council play their parts on taking care of the streets and the roads and the spare lands?
Yes, take that in. The council, of course, are suffering major cutbacks from the government. They've already had 60-70 million pounds knocked off the budget in the last few years, and that's having a dire effect on the cleansing side of the council. You do see the small street wagons going down cleaning the streets, not as often as we would like, but they do it. General cleansing there's no such thing as men going sweeping the gutters and litter picking now, because they just can't afford it. When I say that, it's the cutbacks that are on the cleansing department. So they're relying now a lot on people coming together on a certain day, say Saturday morning, having a big clean up, and getting people to bring the rubbish out of their houses, such as old settees, beds and so on, and dumping them into the skips once every 2 or 3 months. They have these cleanups. There is a lot
of that goes on as well, isn't there? You know.
So the council will help in that way, but they say, well, you've got to do it yourself, and it's becoming a more DIY type of cleansing, where people have got to come together with the litter pit, all supplied by the council, but it has to be done by the residents themselves, and they're cooperating. So, you know, they do come together whenever it's organised.
But the council still putting the facilities there.
Oh yes, they will provide all the facilities, all the equipment, whatever it's needed on that particular day, and they'll take the rubbish away.
Which you can't argue with that.
No.
No fairer than that, is there?
Can't.
Especially with the courts.
That's right.
Okay, moving on from there. Can I ask, did you watch the programme that the BBC Panorama did on the estate?
I did watch a little bit of it, not all of it. What I did see was not good from the point. It was really one-sided. It didn't talk to the people who work tirelessly in the estate to put on different types of activities and so on and so forth. It only talked to 2 or 3 people who were just, in my view, scroungers.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
I'll leave that there then. I'd just like to say I really appreciate this. It's been very helpful. Is there anything you would like to add from yourself before we finish this?
Not really. We're all working together to make the ward, and I say this, the ward, because it doesn't contain just the Shadsworth estate. There are a lot of houses outside the estate, on like major roads, Shadsworth Road and so on, Feasted Brow, all those, and small estates off there, such as Romney Walk and so on. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a large area to cover, but as 3 councillors, we do our best to cover all the areas and make sure all the areas are kept reasonably tidy, clean and so on. If we get notice that there's a pocket of refuse that needs cleaning up, so where people have been dumping, we do that. On the other hand, we have to look after and cater for all sorts of complaints, as I said, for benefits, pensions and so on, which is a major thing now. People are complaining they're not getting the right benefits for this, that and the other, or it's been stopped because of for certain reasons, and we have to negotiate with officers of the council and the DUP, Department of Works and Pensions, to sort out these problems, and genuinely we do our best. Simple as that.
Thank you. Just literally one last thing. I've asked every one of my interviewees so far, so I'll ask yourself, if you could describe Shadsworth in a simple sentence, how would you put it?
A pleasant and nice estate to live on, as long as you look after what is needed to make it, keep it that way.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Again, your time's much appreciated, and thank you for speaking with me.
Thanks a lot.